Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Bear, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guy?
What'd you say?
Did you have me muted?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Hey, what's up?
Kenny, I thought we talked about when I was gone, you wouldn't let Wyatt do a genie paradox.
I can't control Wyatt.
We let the genie out of the box.
A wild card.
Yep. He created a situation in which, in the genie scenario, he could in fact secure Aladdin's lamp and get a genie to apparate. Yep. Got to fucking call the time police up in here.
It's like Rick and Morty time police.
Yep. Don't fuck with time.
Man.
I feel like that's what happened.
So, Rob, you went to Tennessee. Title of the show is The Long Island Incident. It's a reference to one of your most notorious drinking incidences in Chattanooga.
Man, I'll tell you what, there's always some sort of new discovery, new experience on the drinking front and in Chattanooga. And this year was no different. They had Jack and Coke premixes at the in a can. They come like that from Coke apparently. At the snack bar at the event. And I was like,
just grab your Coke and your little chicken fingers and you walk back and so they just don't drink cola in Chattanooga.
No, they had sodas. They have fountain drinks too.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like, motherfucker, we don't drink Coke.
They had a couple of them too. They had the one, the honey with the Jack with the honey. There was a couple of them.
Just poured that shit in the can?
It was already in the can, just like magic, like genie paradox.
It's not what a paradox is.
That was good.
It was a pre-mixed drink. How many did you drink total over the whole course of the weekend?
Like 6 over the weekend, 4 on the first day. The AC went out at the event. It came back eventually by the end of the day, but it got a little sticky, so it wasn't good for drinking anything but water there for a while.
I was to say, man, fucking Chattanooga in July.
Well, you remember the one year, was it the first year that not only did the AC go out, but I want to say the toilets overflowed too.
That was me. Yeah, I fucked that up. It was bad.
It was super bad.
Yeah.
And then that whole place ended up getting like renovated the next year, so they had to find another place. And I was like,
yeah, no, we broke that place.
Did we break that place the first year?
Yeah. It never recovered.
I don't think it did. I
think I saw Andrew Whittaker's dick that year too.
Oh my God.
How did that happen?
I was in the bathroom taking a shit.
Oh. So you're the reason it overflowed?
Yeah.
Oh. That makes sense. He was also there. As I looked around the room for tall people, there was Thomas Bird and Andrew Whittaker, so I immediately knew where they were.
Yeah. Easy to spot in the crowd.
Very easy. So yeah, that was good. And then I drove down to Huntsville, Alabama, and checked out High Ground Hobbies, which is the retail store for Stiff Neck Studio. I mean, they do a lot of the painting there too, in like a different area. But that was pretty dope, like just to kind of see. And they had like a kitchen with pizza ovens and all sorts of different food they can make and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Had a cauliflower crust pizza that was gluten free.
The GF.
The GF pizza, yeah.
That's my new favorite.
GF has come a long ways, bro.
The GF scene. I'm with it. I'm glad you had a good weekend. I'm sure you're going to cover ATCs in the news.
We can talk about it. It's like
it's kind of a slow outside of the ATC results, which are honestly not that exciting because kind of like all this excitement already happened while you were gone, like with Lone Star Open and Palm Springs.
Palm Springs. Yeah.
And so like all this cool new things happened and we got to talk about that. We had Steven on the show and then it's kind of blew that excitement wide, and it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. And ATCs is one of my favorite events, man. We used to go every year.
Yeah.
You still do. I don't, it's just too.
Well, I don't play.
Yeah. We used to go and play every year in the same team. So fun. That's like where it all started, honestly. Like bringing the team events to America.
Yep.
So that's super fun. But in the pregame show, we workshopped an idea and you and White kind of came up with something I think is interesting for just table of contents, which is the idea of turning games into teaching moments, even if you're playing something that is like the hotness, like Eldar. Like you're coming in, there's a way to channel sportsmanship in a way that doesn't compromise your win, turning things into a teaching moment. And I think we'll have some insight on that here later in the show. As in lieu of like a Warhammer 40K, check out this hot tech section on the tail end of Rob's news. But before all that, let's roll out to Wyatt's Cave of Wonders and touch nothing but the lamp.
Would you rather have to move to a different town every year or never be able to leave the town that you were born in?
Is it still like silly economy where you can't like actually afford to move?
No, you can afford it.
You can afford it, just like
but you have to move. You have to move.
You can magically afford it, like not like my life. This doesn't make my life worse because I have to move. Like it's like I'm not financially burdened by this.
Yeah.
And define town. Is there a minimum distance?
I mean, zip code. Like it'd have to be like a different town.
Like,
but
zip code.
You have to make an effort. Like you couldn't be like, well, if I move 2 blocks over, I'm at a different zip code.
Like, okay, so if I move to Glendale, does that count?
Yeah.
If I move to like Pasadena, that counts.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though it's all technically Los Angeles.
It's like a metroplex, but I mean, eventually you'll run out of spots, so you have to move farther.
Well, like if the town is small enough that doesn't ride, right? Like so, like that it scales, right? Like since I live in Los Angeles, we have more than one town in Los Angeles. That's fine, right? But if I go to like Wyoming, like I can't go to the south side of the town that I'm in.
Yeah, you have to go to a different town.
Okay. Or so is it retroactively? Am I teleported back to Miami? If I pick can't leave.
It's whatever town you were born in.
Am I given like do I just teleport there and I'm like in a fucking apartment there right now, or do I have to like get in a car, drive there and set up shop there again?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think I'd let that run. I think I'd do that.
Just like stay where you were born.
Yeah, go as long as I don't have to drive back in with all my shit. As long as like there's a convenience magic factor to showing back up. Because if I have to get in a car and move, and I have to change towns every year, I'll build that into my lifestyle, and I'll just be in Orange County. I'll be in fucking Pasadena, whatever, man. But I wouldn't mind. Teleport me back to Miami. I guess Kendall, because that's like South Miami. Kendall is where I'd have to stay. Oh, I couldn't leave Kendall because that counts. It's the same concept.
You'd always have to live in Kendall.
Ugh. Wait, is it the town I was born in?
Yeah.
Oh no, fuck that. Never mind. I wasn't born in Kendall. I was born in Hialeah.
Is that worse or better?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been there in a while. Some people say it's different now, but it was not tight.
I feel like every place is different now.
It was not tight. Anybody been to Hialeah lately? Before I make my decision.
Yeah, can't say that I have. Dang, I don't know. Moving is super annoying. Just like even every year. Ugh.
Yeah, it's super annoying. That's what I'm saying. Is like I gotta really think about this one. Like Hialeah, if Hialeah is like 25% tighter, I'd pick it than it was when I grew up there.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's like the new the suburbs have like reached out to there, and that's like the new suburb.
Yeah. Fuck.
I don't know.
Moving every year is like a hassle, man. But then having to be locked in Florida sucks.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn myself. Like moving every year. Ugh. I mean, I guess it's cool if you get a new place and it's like
you build your life around it. You know, I bet our lives would get like so efficient.
Yeah.
You have to build your life around it.
What is it? If you wait till the last second, it only takes a second.
It's true.
Except when you're doing chores, I just recently found out.
You're supposed to listen to podcasts when you do chores.
I tried waiting the last second to do all my chores, and it turns out it takes the same exact fucking amount of time to do them.
Yeah?
Just stressed me out. Yeah, I think I just fucking change towns. I can't do it. I can't fucking I can't go back to, like, Florida's already bad enough. I was thinking, like, oh, Miami in general, pick a dope spot in Miami. Nope. No. It was not a dope spot in Miami.
No?
No, I can't do it. I will just change towns every year.
Is there any magical moving of towns? Like
no, you just
year?
Financially will never be burdened by it.
Yes,
what he said.
That's the cheat code. It doesn't cost you anything, but you still got to move.
Time is still money.
Like a magic debit card shows up in my wallet that costs the exact amount of money that the move costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you just get good at it if you're doing it every year.
It's like when the army pays you to move, but they actually reimburse you.
Yeah,
they actually do it.
I think what the army does is like gives you a card that you have to pay them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like sometimes before you're even done moving. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I'll just get good at it, dog. I'll just like the first move would be the whole like don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. So much trash. Just get rid of all this. This is my bare bones, and then build off of that. But building off of that would be everything has a means in which it is broken down and stable. And I think my life would get a lot cleaner because I wouldn't just accumulate trash and garbage.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you still get some stuff. Like, I think like every time I moved, the first day or the first like pregame was always, all right, let me go through all my stuff and see what I actually need. And then it was like either donate it or chuck it. Right. So like you would always just thin down right off the bat. Yeah. If you didn't keep up with it.
Your shit would get so lean though, because you do it every year.
Yeah. You would just be like straight, like, those Titans, I don't need those fucking Titans.
Yeah, I'd say like year 3, you're like, fuck the Titans.
I'm tired. I haven't played with this in 3 years. Like, I'm done.
Who's that lady who's like, who shows people how to like fix their houses up? And
fix.
Is it Joy?
Yeah.
Marie Kondo?
Marie Kondo, yes.
Yeah, like, does it spark joy?
We become like the next level of that shit.
Like, the like nerd version?
The 40K gurus of this shit.
Man, it's going to be me next year. I'm going to find a bunch of stuff to get rid of.
Just get rid of it all.
I'm slim down, dog.
Nah. I learned that lesson a long time. I got to keep all my armies.
Oh, no, not that. I mean, no. That's not what I mean.
No.
Oh, fuck no. Like,
there's a ton of furniture that I'm getting rid of.
Yeah, I was saying, keep your PC, keep your fucking armies, like put that shit up, make it tight and like it's easy to, fuck everything else.
Everything better fit in like one small U-Haul truck, and everything else is dead to me. I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yep, that's how I look at it. Fuck the bed, fuck the couch, fuck all that shit.
I'll tell you like a hack that I learned when I moved from my previous apartment down the hill to this one in the same complex. I was like, dude, fuck all those cardboard boxes stuff. I'm just going to buy a bunch of those like big rubber totes from Walmart.
Yeah, the bed totes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you're done, you can either leave stuff in the totes, put it in storage, or you just like stack up all the totes and then they're there ready to go for the next move.
I've got 4 of those. They fit 4 square in the back of my truck. Like that's how I like do soup, like the soup kitchen stuff. I can do the entire operation. Like my PC, all that shit. Like everything I need, I can go for like a month. I can get everything in that shit set up for a month. That's good tech. Yeah, we already workshopped this. We're just moving every year. Got it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to do it.
All right, Rob, you want to do some news?
Yeah, we got some news. Let me find my notes here.
All right, me and Wyatt are gonna play Baldur's Gate while you do this.
Great. You downloaded it already?
You haven't downloaded it this whole time.
And streaming?
Yeah.
And you must have a monster signal. So new GW releases this week. There's an Underworld set, Scabby's Play Pack. I guess that's the Skaven. And the Sarasis Knight Lancer finally hits pre-orders in plastic. That is $200, which is considerably less than the Forge World version, but which isn't available anymore. So it's cool looking. I can't wait to get my hands on one and see how it compares to the Forge World, the one in resin. I imagine it's going to be probably a lot lighter, but they look pretty much the same. So I don't know what's any different about it besides being in plastic, which is cool. The Warhammer Underworld set is $42. So they are allocated 2 per store. I'm not really sure how many people are, going to be putting out the money for the Knight Lancer, but it is more geared towards the Horus Heresy side of things. It will be legal in 40K. Of course, there is an index card for it. So look for that to go on pre-order this Saturday. And of course, it will hit stores next weekend. And also that big Fall Acadia limited edition collector set is going to go on sale as well for 160. I think it's 160, might be 180. I can't read my own handwriting here. We're the utmost of professionals today, unfortunately. So there's that. That is all the new releases. There has been some sightings of City of Sigmar stuff. So if you're AOS fan, chances are that will be going on pre-order very shortly. For those of you out there kind of not really getting your fill of 40K right now, release-wise or rules-wise or whatever, there's a good chance that, this release cycle will mirror what they've done for the past 2. And we'll see the balanced data sheet in September, along with the first Codex books in October, if the pattern holds. So be on the lookout for that. So it's going to be, it's going to be a little slow as they dial stuff in a little bit more. And then hopefully we get a balanced data slate and kind of tightens some of the underperformance, let's say, a little bit, maybe towards the middle of the pack, hopefully, because played quite a few games of 40K, and there are some underperformers for sure. Speaking of underperformers, Battlescribe put out, and I know we've talked about this, how they weren't going to do 10th edition, and they couldn't get it to work. Well, the data maintainers, not Battlescribe, not the app, the data maintainers, the people that actually program this stuff, were able to get code together, and they put out an update, I believe, last week. And they've updated it several times since then. So they did get the code to work. It does work with Battlescribe. They said that it might not work with some older versions of mobile devices because of bandwidth. It's also open source, so it's going to work with a couple of other army builder programs out there as well. So it's not just dialed into Battlescribe. So as they go forward, depending on what happens with the Battlescribe app restrictions in the various app stores, it may or may not work. So they were able to get it up and running, and they are doing their best to maintain the data, but big question mark as far as Battlescribe goes. Obviously, GW has their own app. It works great. It definitely updates. And it's pretty slick, and it's got all the little keywords you can click on and things. It's pretty dope and easy to use as well. So there's that too, right? Creature Caster also is coming out with their second large dragon model that's on pre-order right now, and there's a bunch of bonuses and things if you're one of the first 200 people to pre-order it, and they also have it on display at Gen Con. They just put out a video of their booth over on Instagram, so if you want to see what all that is, and it looks like they're also coming out with some new cuttlefish colors, some base colors as well for that brand, which they are also distributing and selling on their website. Check that out as well, because I haven't used them, but a lot of people seem to like them, and they were an existing brand of paint out there that a lot of people seem to like. So that's always cool to see. I would say I don't know if you guys saw this earlier, but Joy Toy announced today that they're going to be doing Horus Heresy era action figures. So maybe Primarchs.
Yeah.
Ooh, like the Primarchs. I didn't even think of that.
That'd be cool.
Maybe we'll get a Sanguinius figure. Characters. I mean, the sky's kind of the limit there, right?
Yeah, at first I was like, wait. Primarchs. Give me an Angron.
Oh, dude, Angron. I didn't even think of Angron. I mean, and the door's really wide open too, because they can do, at the start of the Heresy, they can do like Demon Transcendent Primarchs, Chaos Empowered Primarch, all Dark Mechanicum. Like, they can get wild with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with it, because it's just like the possibilities. I mean, obviously they're going to do the Marks of Armor, and that'll be super cool to see. But I mean, there's so much potential. Things we haven't even seen miniatures for, we might get action figures for, right? It's just really cool. So look for more on that, hopefully pretty soon. There was really no ETA, but once they announced those, the initial run of figures, they were in stores pretty quick. I want to say stuff hit the States. They announced it summer of 21, and stuff hit the States. It came out in Asia way earlier, but stuff hit the States like in January of 22, give or take. So pretty quick turnaround on that.
Yeah, they haven't been fucking around.
Monument Hobbies also has some new paint sets, some new signature series paint sets coming out that they also have on their Instagram talking about at Gen Con as well, and that gloss medium too. The big models. I can't grab mine here, but I can grab my primer. So if you're watching live, it's going to look something like this. A nice big bottle of gloss primer. So that's pretty cool. I have noticed a lot more this summer with the humidity and the heat. It's good to have, if you got an airbrush, it's definitely good to have some of that primer just to get a good, base coat to work from down on your miniatures if you can't use your rattle cans, at least here in the South, because it gets pretty wild out there. So it might be worth picking up some of their primer as well. And then, of course, you probably can't matte coat your miniatures either, because same problem. So that they have sealer too now. Well, yeah. gloss varnish. I think they had regular varnish too.
They do. They have. Yeah, he was testing it on his stream. He was showing off the different varnishes. So that's been something that's been missing from their hobby lineup for a while. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I was really. It's good that they're filling in everything, because it's hard to find a good. Well, obviously we already had the primers, but it's good to find a good gloss varnish and stuff out there. You gloss or matte, depending on what you want to do for doing the all the
you need to
different
protect.
effects.
You need to protect those minis and also alter the finish. So having something you can rely on is always important.
And Atomic Mass Games announced a bunch of stuff for Marvel Crisis Protocol yesterday. Both a new core set and also new releases, new character pack releases. The new core set is coming out. Well, all this, the core set, the new movement templates, as well as the new card pack for 2023 is all coming out on October 13th. Now, this is basically to celebrate the 4-year anniversary of the first MCP starter, which came out in 2019. They've come a long way, as people are like, kind of poo-pooing it a little bit, some of the comments I saw. But you got to remember, if you ever put that starter set together, I know why I put his together, a lot of the models in there, while great for their time, could have been improved a little bit upon assembly wise, like a lot of fiddly parts and a lot of just 3D design has gotten a lot better in 4 years, right? So the fact that they went back, redid a lot of those, doing new rules for a lot of those, putting more terrain in the box as well. They redid the tokens even, that come with it. I think it's really cool. And it's nice to see that they're getting into a cycle of the game as well. So like I said, that's coming out on October 13th. There's also a card pack, which the only thing that's coming in the card pack is the Crisis cards that have already come out. You could download and print them out if you wanted. They put them out last November. Those are the only things that's coming there. And there's 6 new Crisis cards in the core set box. So there'll be almost 30 missions now for MCP from the sounds of it. Which is kind of cool to see the variance in it and the ability to take all sorts of different missions and things. I think some people in the stream are talking about lamenting at some of the assemblies. My personal favorite was, I think it was the elbow pads for Baron Zemo were tiny little parts. And I definitely lost a few of those when I was assembling my stuff there. They're also coming out with new X-Men miniatures as well, kind of starting to really round out that line. They've got Professor X in the hover chair along with Shadow King. So that was a great story arc in the 90s for Claremont. And oh gosh, what else? Bishop, Shadowcat, Bobby Drake, as Iceman, and for the Spider-Man side of things, they got Spider-Foes coming out, so kind of filling in the Spider-Foes or whatever version of Sinister State 6 you might want to run. They've got Electro, Shocker, Vulture, and Sandman. Look to have some extra miniatures with them too. Not exactly 100% sure what those are going to be, if they're going to work like Magneto's constructs or if they're going to be Grunts models, but we'll definitely find out shortly, I'm sure. So everything's looking good from Atomic Mass Games, with their releases, and I'm sure they're going to show off a lot more for Legion and probably Shatterpoint as well. Usually later on in the day, they usually showcase that stuff off. But no previews from GW at Gen Con, shockingly. So it looks like we'll find out more about the releases that are upcoming throughout the next 3 months or so at, if I had to guess, I'd say at Nova, because that's the next big event at the end of this month. So that's basically all the news that I am tracking out there from. I mean, there was stuff the week before, but that's old news.
Yeah. What about ATCs?
So ATCs, ATCs was a great event this year. They've moved into the Chattanooga Convention Center. They started last year. They were there last year, but I think it's a great venue. I think there was upwards of 350 players this year. I want to say 175 teams ish. If you look, if you sort the event by faction, like what factions did the best, obviously it's Eldar, Cheat Stealer Call, Knights did really well, all the normal factions that you would see there definitely did well. I think Art of War won it for the second year in a row. So congrats to them. And I don't really know the rundown of the top teams from there, but the singles definitely, if you look those up, were about what
to be expected.
Yeah. So there was that.
Yeah. It's
I think
OG prestigious event,
Oh yeah, I mean the whole team format is really cool. It's 5-player teams. I'm sure we talked about it on here before
for 10 years.
Yeah, it's just a really cool event, and you almost should definitely get an award if you just get 5 people there and start the tournament.
If it's the same 5 people you came up with the idea with, and you all show up there, you should get an award.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's fun to hear, man. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's always fun to get out and check out events, especially at the beginning of 10th edition. I don't think there was any big issue or
no scandals, nothing.
What's that?
No scandals?
No, I don't think so. No problems with terrain. They did the little terrain map kind of thing. It wasn't where you got to pick. They had it standardized, like certain tables were some of those profiles that they had the pictures of. So you didn't like roll the dice and like, oh, it's this here, but it was all like,
but there was 5 tables for a team to pick from.
Yeah.
Word.
Which I think was a cool idea too. Cause
that's pretty cool for team events anyway. Like that's a good usage of layout terrain.
Yeah. Every block of 5 tables for the matchups were pretty much the same.
Yeah. It's exciting to hear, man. Hopefully one day I can get back out there and drink some Long Island iced teas with you.
I guess people might want to know what that one was about.
Oh.
Did we cover that in this
we covered it in After Hours.
Oh, okay.
You got to pay us money if you want to hear about Rob's Long Island incident.
The infamous Long Island incident.
But let's talk about some news then. Like we promised, the winter table contents. Nothing really to talk about. Eldari on top.
Yeah.
Knights looking good still. Tyranids winning big all over. So we know what's going on. But
well, actually, Knights didn't place last weekend at all in any events.
Really?
I don't think. Yeah.
Oh wow. So towering kind of working itself out on the table as people sort out terrain, I bet. Also,
I mean, it could be some of that, or
also, like we said, if you know that your opponent plays Knights and you gear for Knights, you kind of have an advantage. As long as you pick a faction that has the DPS to handle it. But the subject of tonight's Warhammer 40K tactics part of the show, I'll kick it over to Wyatt to spearhead that. The subject being teaching moments.
Yeah, because Rob brought up interesting point in the pre-show that like if you're playing Eldar, maybe you shouldn't, or you should tone it down. And I responded to that by saying like there's 2 different ways to play 40K really. There's like Friday night Warhammer with the boys, and that kind of includes like Basement Hammer, your friend coming over for a game, like that kind of thing, like casual 40K, right? And Friday Night Warhammer can also be like, oh, I'm going to get some reps in because I got a tournament this weekend or like the next weekend and I want to try some stuff out. But then you have like competitive tournament 40K, which is I go to a tournament. You can have a lot of different goals when you go to a tournament. Your goal may not be like to win the tournament or to podium the tournament. You could go just to play some rough and tumble competitive 40K and have a good time. Or you could go to learn a bunch of stuff because you've never gone to a tournament before.
Or secure a winning record or...
Yeah, like just,
go win positive.
Yeah. Right. Just for the social hangout with the guys at a tournament. That's a big reason a lot of people go. So in my mind, when somebody says like, oh, you shouldn't play Eldar, or like, if you play Eldar, don't take these units or tone it down. Like, that's fine if you're talking about Friday Night Warhammer, right? You don't want to be that guy that is like bringing the heater to Friday Night Warhammer and just
turning people away from the hobby.
Yeah, like just steel clubbing, dick stomping, all that. You don't want to be that guy. But if it's like in a tournament, like if Eldar is a really strong faction just dominating the meta, and I'm going to a tournament and I have an Eldar army, dude, like I'm going to take that Eldar army to the tournament because I'm going to win some games. And if you're worried about going up against somebody who might be newer to the game, maybe they haven't played Eldar at all, maybe they haven't been in the tournament scene as long as you have, there's a way to play those games where you still handle business because your goal is, I want to win X number of games, or I want to try to podium, or I want to try to win the tournament, which means that you can't really like throw the game. You can't really stop scoring points. Like you need to secure your points because of the way that pairing metrics work and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, so I need to get 100 and like, that's got to happen. But you as a sportsman can turn that situation into a way to have both players have a great time, right? Because that's kind of how we define sportsmanship on the Long War, is being equally invested in both players' enjoyment of the game rather than just yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, like, a lot of times I run into people at tournaments where they're like, that's their first tournament, or like they just got this army, they're still learning it, or maybe they're like a younger person, like a teenager that's getting into the game. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but like I need to win X number of games to meet my goal, but I'm going to make sure that we're both having a great time. And while we're playing that game, I'm not going to just be like, oh, get good, kid. Like I'm going to turn that into a teachable moment and be like, I'm doing this, and this is why I'm doing it, and this is how it works. So if you see it again, like, you know why, or like with the army you're playing, you could do something similar to get good results, right? It's as easy as that.
Yeah. You know, like there is, you know, there's a way to be cooperatively competitive with somebody where you both have completely separate goals, right? That are but only one of your goals on the table can be achieved, probably, like the main goal, right? So how do you maintain the social contract of this cooperative competition? How do you keep that shit civil if like you're the one who's imposing your will, right? Like you're like, both people want to win, maybe that's their goal, but but you are going to win, right? So how do I stay as invested in his time knowing that there's no fucking way he can win? And so that's, I think, a great kind of answer to that is,
yeah.
You know,
and saying that, like, I fully understand that that's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of being sociable. Like you have to have a really good social thermometer to be able to do that. And you also have to be able to like eloquently handle situations with like interpersonal talking and things of that nature, because sometimes people just go on tilt and they don't want you to be nice to them. Like they don't want to hear words of encouragement and that kind of thing. And like managing that is like, it's a skill. You have to hone it over time, right? You can't just be like an introvert at that social experience at the side of the table. Like you have to be invested in his time or her time as much as you are in your time. And it's something that you got to practice.
Yeah, it truly is, you know, and there's a way to do it that's not placating. There's a way to do it that's not patronizing, you know, like you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does take a change of mindset. Like if you say words to somebody just so that you could de-escalate their anxiety or their irritation, because like that's like the sole intent. You just say the right words. Hopefully you've placated them. That doesn't work on everyone. That doesn't always ride. You know, some people are, like you said, like don't want, like that's patronizing. It's like, you know, you're not like, this shit's going sideways, son. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I do agree with that. I agree that no one should ever feel like they shouldn't play something because it's powerful. Like at the end of the day, a tournament is an organized competition to select the winner. And how is the win condition achieved? By defeating somebody on the battlefield with as many points as fucking humanly possible so that you can also defeat tiebreakers.
Right. And then queuing off of that, that's also a really good point, right? Because we're moving into a climate now where opponent strength of schedule is becoming very popular as a like tertiary form of placement metric. And so creating teachable moments in your games is actually beneficial for yourself as well as that other player, because one thing that can happen is like, if I just, clean out like 5-0 into the very top brackets, but all the people that I played end up like just losing and have like a terrible record for that tournament, that hurts my score. Like that could be the reason that you get third place or second place rather than winning.
If there's like a tie for second place and your strength of schedule was worse.
Right. So like if I'm playing something that is just ace in the competition, right? Like if I'm in a position where I'm playing the Heater Eldar army that is just crushing fools, it would behoove me to tell my opponent everything that he can do during and in future games to like play against Eldar, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying like coddle the person and be like, and show him your hand of cards, because it is a war game. It is like, I'm trying to out general my opponent. But like, as you're playing the game, as you're doing the things that you need to do to win, be like, hey, so I'm doing this stratagem and that's happening. And then afterwards be like, this is why I did that. And like, if you see somebody have a similar build, they're probably going to do the same thing. And like, here's how you can avoid it, or here's how you can mitigate, going up against that or putting yourself in that same position. So that if they run into another Eldar player, maybe they, do better, and that helps you in the long run.
Yeah. And you can even do that in the pregame if you think like, or the post game, like, hey, when I started a position and started to do this like this, and then, like maybe next time, if you're going to shoot a knight, don't shoot one of the knights first and then shoot Canis Rex, because he gets to rotate for free. And he gets to rotate after I rotated already, target Canis Rex first, or something like that. Like everything's different.
Yeah. You don't have to hand him the keys of the kingdom in the game. Like you can. You can.
So there's like the pregame where it's like, hey, have you played Eldar before? No? All right, let me show you a few things so that you don't feel like I, shot some angles on you with using some stratagems, whatever. Like that's generally a good practice. Then afterwards, or like after you've made a play or a strategy on the table to score a bunch of points, be like, this is why I did that. And that helps that person learn how to get better at 40K, but also if they play that army again, how to, avoid that same situation.
Yeah, and like you said, that might help you in your tiebreakers, because they play somebody and then in the same tournament, and they might even know what to do.
You gave them the secret tech on how to beat knights, and then they beat two more knight players after you beat them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But you're not going to always know when you step up to the table exactly what to say to somebody. So maybe some in-game stuff or something, or every situation is different. So you're just going to have to kind of...
Yeah, everyone's got a different social thermometer.
Judgment.
Everyone's got a different charisma score. So it's not like suddenly you need to get good at socializing. If you don't feel like you are, it's more like just a slight change of mindset. And I think you could actually learn a lot from some of the top players. Like I think a lot of top players do embody most of what Wyatt's saying. When you watch them live on camera, like they are very transparent about their openings, like what's going on. They try to establish a lot of like intent, like this, like in like I'm good, like these stratagems, this that. Like I've seen a lot of very clean.
Yeah, you almost have to be like your own commentator while you're playing the game, kind of narrate what you're doing. That helps a lot, because if you're like at a tournament and it's kind of loud and you're like, I'm doing a thing. Right. Like somebody might not hear you. They might not catch it. They might not understand what's happening until after the fact, which can lead to feels bads. But if you're just like narrating everything at all times, then it helps mitigate that.
Yeah. And, even just calling out your dice rolls, like, because some people might not realize what each unit can do firepower wise. or even just maybe even explaining like how things work. Like, hey, this is a rapid fire weapon. This is the range, but you know, if you get outside of that, then I can't shoot it twice a year or something. Just
I just ask a lot of questions too. Like that's one thing that I worked into playing is like, I may know what the toughness of a Forge Fiend is, but if I'm playing against somebody and I'm like interacting with their army, I'll be like, all right, here's my hit rolls, hitting on threes. Roll those dice. All right, what's your toughness? Okay, cool. You're telling me what your toughness is. So I'm, you know, like that back and forth is like, okay, toughness 8. All right, I need 3s to win. Like, all right, roll that out, right? So you're constantly like keeping that social interaction going. You're keeping that commentary going the entire time. So there's no confusion over what's happening because nobody likes an interaction of like, all right, here's my hit roll. All right, here's my wound roll. And it's like, all right, you got like 12 wounds. And you're like, well, okay, what were you shooting with? Like, what's your target? You know, like all that kind of stuff. Nobody likes to have those weird kind of janky interactions with people. Yeah, too old to waste time on 3 hours. That's a good point. Like whenever I go to a tournament and I walk up to the table, my general rule of thumb is to treat everybody with friendliness and respect, like until they prove that like they don't deserve the respect that I'm giving them. And I kind of treat every interaction with the idea that like we both paid good money to have a good time this weekend. And so like I want to make sure that that happens for the both of us. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Like the tournament scene has gotten so much better since I started like 10 years ago, but you still run into people that are just like not having it or like they're a bad actor or something like that. Like that still happens once in a very long time. But I walk up to the table treating everybody with the same amount of like respect and camaraderie and friendliness as like, we all love Warhammer. We all love playing our toy soldiers. We paid good money to have a good time this weekend. So like, let's keep that good vibe going.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you as far as that goes, because it's kind of tough to know exactly the right thing to do. So if you just always kind of have a standard of how you just talk and interact, and then you just kind of, you know, just kind of see the vibe from people when you're playing and stuff, you know. And like what I was saying, when you do that first roll or whatever, when you target something, you don't have to ask them again what the toughness is. And, you know, just move on to talking about, you know, something else or whatever. I think everybody is, you know, a thing I found too is if you have those index cards or you print them out, you know, it's a lot easier sometimes when you explain things about how your units might work and somebody just kind of blanks. You could just like, you know, hand them to them, be like, hey, I got the index cards. You want to see them? I've done that a couple of times. Or I've asked to see, you know, if I see that they have the index cards, I was like, why they're moving. I was like, hey, can I see your index cards? I just want to see what some of your units do. I mean, that seems okay too, I think.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things about having the index cards, in my opinion, is like, I like having that stuff in front of me on the table at all times. And if somebody's like asking you a question, I like to be able to just look at something and read it word for word rather than like try to remember it, because I got too much old edition crap in my head. I got TBI, like trying to remember minutia of things is just too difficult. And I don't want to say the wrong thing and then have that be like a bad interaction. I'll just be like, yo, it says this. And then I'll just like hand it to them, or I'll just read it word for word.
I mean, a lot of times when I say something and somebody like gives me that, like, oh, that seems really good. I was like, hold on, let me get let me just double check. Because you might have read it wrong or something, you know. Because I've done that a few times, but you know, I think if you just keep the same standards when you're playing, then I think you'll do fine. You know, because like how you declare things, how you go through your like shooting, how you're like this is that, Yeah, oh, okay, I'm shooting this weapon here, and then you just roll your dice the same. Like I always count out and use the same colored dice for different weapons, just so it isn't like a question, you know?
That's a good practice. Like I try to do that sometimes, but I find that it becomes like more of a hassle over time, or like if you end up losing dice or like whatever. So I've just gotten into the habit of just rolling weapons separately. Just for me, that's for some people, maybe that's like the go-to, right? It's not a bad thing. Just for me, I'm like, I like to have just like one grip of dice. I know exactly how many dice there are. I can count them out really easily. Rather than like, okay, the blue dice are this and the red dice are this, because that's something that can get lost in conversation, or in like the volume of a tournament all the time anyways. And you never want to be in that position where like something swings in your direction, because wild dice swings can happen and then cause that to be suspicious to another person, because then that, breaks the trust of the social contract. So I'm just like, all right, here's all the heavy bolted. Here's all the last cans. Okay. This is the total.
I could see that. Yeah, I completely, especially with the exploding sixes and stuff now too.
Oh yeah. It can get wild. Like there's even stuff where, on stream, it gets really hard to follow if people are playing with different dice rolls for stuff, because if we don't have a direct line to their mics, then it's just like you just see hands rolling a bunch of dice and you have no context for what's happening. It's kind of the same thing if you're in a huge hall with hundreds of games going on.
So loud.
It's a lot easier to be like, this is my hit roll. And then this is the hit roll for these weapons. And this, rather than, okay, for these dice, we're doing this. And for those dice, we're doing that. And like trying to get all this stuff going on in one big block, like roll. Yeah. And then you have to pick stuff out and it takes a lot longer. So it all depends on what is more efficient and easier for you to communicate.
And two points I want to make too that are along that line is don't do anything that you as a player would be like, hey, what now? Like try to avoid that, right? Like if you wouldn't be able to follow what you're doing, if somebody else did it to you, then definitely don't do that. And then I think another thing too is, and I think this started this whole topic when I was like, you don't have to like go so hard. But one of the things you can do in game too is like maybe you can always conveniently forget some rules, not to give yourself an advantage, but maybe you don't need to like just obliterate something with like all the
you can pump the brakes. Yeah, for sure. You can just like that unit's not going to do anything this round. Or different things like that, but it depends on the context of what you're trying to achieve, which goes back to our initial point. It's like if it's and there's a sliding scale, kind of like I wanted to bring up that there is kind of a sliding scale, right? So if it's like round 1 and then round 2 and then round 3, and you're running into a lot of people that are not at that same level or did not bring the level of list that is going to make it to the higher brackets during day 2. If you keep winning and you're like battling it out for higher and higher brackets, those games are going to be against a higher and higher caliber of player. So still have that like respectful and fun social contract that you make with those people. But the punishment of mistakes is definitely on a sliding scale in competition. So it's like, if I'm in round 1 and I know I'm winning this game no matter what, because the person is new or inexperienced, then I'm gonna be like, you may not want to do that. And here's why, right? Because you're in a position where you can create a teachable moment and still achieve your goal, which is winning that game with, full points or what have you. But if you're in like round 5, round 6, and you're battling it out for podium position and somebody is making mistakes, not so much like misremembering rules, but like tactical mistakes, at that point, it is a game of mistakes because you're playing at the highest level. Yeah. And so the level of like takesies, backsies, or like you may not want to do that kind of stuff, it is decreased because it's like this guy should know. And then we're battling it out at a very high level and it becomes a game of mistakes rather than a game of like remembering rules.
That's a good point, guys. I think you guys nailed it.
think that was a good one.
Who's going to take us out? Is that a tiny dog in the background?
No,
Okay, good. Didn't look like one.
it's a bunny rabbit.
Just found one on the street. Picked it
Yep.
up.
She's very anxious for her mommy to come home today. She basically hates me.
I bet.
she,
It's a tough life out there.
she thinks I did it. She's like, you fucking you were ruining my
This is
life.
your fault. This is your fault.
Anyway, Rob, you want to take us out of here? Just straight.
Just
No gimmicks.
Just raw dogging it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. Just remember how you. That's it for this one, y'all. Thanks for listening. Make sure to head on over to thelongwar.net for. It's been too long.
Yep,
I'm
no.
out of practice.
See, I hit him straight with the raw dog, and he can't even. fucking do
I don't
it.
know what to do. Line.
Why? You want to take us out of here?
Rob?
For exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.